What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Beautiful Game. And we were on a little bit of a break, a holiday, winter solstice.
Lots of craziness.
Blake, unfortunately, can't be with us tonight. He has recently, I think we were okay to announce, he's recently got a new job
and moved.
And he's actually in Florida.
I know.
He's just a little bit south of us right now.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyways, I am Ferris here with Ron.
What's happening?
And on tonight's episode of the Beautiful Game, in what was easily the match of the weekend, league leaders Liverpool were held to a 2-2 draw against Northern 14th place foes Manchester United at what was dubbed Arctic Anfield in an instant Premier League classic. Then for the rest of the action, listen, it may be a new year, but the new year still starts with 2. So guess what? We're still doing the 2-minute drill.
Heck yeah.
Then we'll blow the halftime whistle as the Mateta and the Blues that blew it for Ferris's parlay. Ron shares with us all the news that's fit to drink in yet another episode of Ron's Beer News, and we'll explain that here in a little bit. And then for the second half of the pod, there has just been plenty of news over the past several weeks from around the footballing world. So we'll chat a little bit about those latest headlines in a 2025 edition of La Liga's Roundup.
Look out.
All right. But first, our beer.
So, since we're post-holidays and I still have all of the Grand Canyon Brewing beers from my Thanksgiving trip, I picked out a particularly interesting one called the Prickly Pear Wheat Ale from Grand Canyon Brewing Company. The can says "Live Curiously," and there is a whole bunch of cactus flowering on the can. It says a refreshing American wheat ale enhanced with the subtle sweetness of all natural prickly pear fruit. Native to our beloved home state, the prickly pear imparts the delicate sweetness to our award-winning wheat ale, creating a crisp, flavorful brew made to enjoy among the cactus-adorned landscapes of the good old Arizona.
Nice.
4.5 ABV.
Just drinking.
If you're following it home, it's a Pilsner wheat malt, hops are Amarillo. It's ale yeast. You can get it all year round in a 6-pack of cans if you want. If you're ever in the Arizona, Utah area, they have some really wicked good brew houses there for Grand Canyon Brewing. The one that I went to was in Page, Arizona, and it's an old firehouse.
Nice.
It's just really cool how they have it all set up. And
heck yeah.
So, yeah, I recommend a ton of the beers here. This one, I'm curious what you think.
Okay.
I'm going to just get your...
Have you had it before? Did you have it at the brewery? Okay.
Yeah, I had it at the brewery.
Okay.
And I don't want to tell you anything. I just want to get your raw feeling.
Okay. Because I am a little curious.
It's not a pour out, and I wouldn't give you something terrible.
Right. Well,
but,
and you also probably wouldn't do a sour, because wasn't the last pod we did like a second beer and it was
that
sour?
Pickle sour.
And it was probably the first time, maybe ever on this pod, that we both didn't finish the beer. We were both like, this was
and
bad.
The warmer it got, the more terrible
worse
it got.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ugh. All right, so
let's crack them.
Prickly pear. Give it a whirl. And you have to pour this one into a glass because you got to check out the coloring.
That's funky.
It's almost pink in color.
It's like a grapefruit. It's like a grapefruit color.
Yeah. To be honest, what it reminded me of when they brought it to me in the pint glass when I ordered it was one of those like wine spritzer kind of.
I thought you were going to say wine coolers. Like back in the day. Who was it? Bartle and James that used to have the old wine coolers.
And it has that kind of.
It does.
It's not as neon, right? Like as those were.
Yeah.
But it has a very similar kind of look to it.
It's like a mix between like an amber and an IPA. Would that be a good?
Yeah, I mean it's slightly
maybe?
cloudy.
Yeah.
But it's pretty pink in color.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Shall we? Cheers.
Good if we did it. Solancha. Happy New Year.
What do you think?
That's delightful. It's smooth.
It's also much lighter.
It is extremely light. I was going to say that. It is. I was seeing if it was just because it's. No, yeah, it's just. It sounds really weird, but you have a sip of it and then it's gone.
Yeah.
Like it's like it evaporates in your mouth. Like by the time you have a sip, it's like gone.
Yeah, but not in that overly alcohol evaporation in your mouth feel, right?
No.
You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
just extremely, you're right, is the weirdest, extremely smooth going down and almost kind of just melts down.
Yeah.
It's odd.
You get that slight bitter twinge of a wheat ale in the very front.
A little bit of that pear, sure.
And then it seems to just effortlessly disappear.
Yep, I agree with you. Very good.
Yeah, I thought you might enjoy that one.
Well done. Thank you, sir.
Well, shall we get to the old football?
The footy?
So, Liverpool 2, Manchester United dose. Despite the match almost getting called off due to a snowstorm the night before and a bitter cold first half front of in the front of the net, it all kicked off in the second half as a 52nd minute absolute gargantuan strike by center back Lisandro Martinez put the visitors up on the road against the league leaders. Just a cracking goal.
That was not on my score sheet of who would score first in this game.
Right? Yeah. That really, got the chilly affair going, and it starts to warm up only 7 minutes later via a similar cracker of a strike by Gakpo to even things up. And you could feel the tension
it happened so quick, and it was a very similar from like a side angle and just top netting, and it just beautiful strike.
Then the home side doubles their lead only 10 minutes later through a converted penalty by whom other than Mr. Mo Salah. To put the cop end into bliss, he crushes it, but it was the kiss of the badge another 10 minutes later by Dallo, which froze the night at 2 apiece. And then the best part of the entire match, in the absolute death of stoppage time plus 7 minutes, there is a wonderful, just all out blitz of an attack by United. They cut the ball back from the end line right to the penalty spot. And who is there salivating, waiting for the ball? Our favorite, Harry Maguire.
Come on, Harry.
Who effortlessly eyes up the ball, squares himself to net with a beautiful instep of that boot, shanks the out of it.
Oh, it went into like Rosette. I mean, in fairness, and I think I texted this out. Why Xerxes didn't take it, which if he would have scored that goal, would have been redeemable for the game before, where he got hauled off just before half, and the United fans kind of
gave him
booing.
A lot.
I don't know if it's so much for him or just how United were playing, but why he didn't take that shot was beyond me. And the ball he played across, when you're playing it back to a center back, and I know a center back scored in this game, but Maguire, not necessarily the most finesse in front of goal. The ball was also bouncing. So he caught it with his shin, and, I get it to a degree, but it makes you ask. Well, everybody's kind of saying it's an instant kind of Premier League classic. It takes you back to the old days of this rivalry. You could look at it as a point earned for Man United and a point lost, or 2 points lost by Liverpool. But will this turn out to be a turning point for Amarin? Has been asked a lot after this. And I think it was very telling after the game when him, Bruno, who was the player of the match, and Lisandro Martinez, the first goal scorer, all were kind of doing interviews throughout their, post-game duties. And they all were kind of saying the same thing in terms of, we're a little bit upset. Because if we can do this against Liverpool, we get against the league leaders that they were supposed to blow them out, right? People were predicting another 7-0 game, and they were predicting them just to blow the doors off. And United hasn't scored a goal at Anfield in like 6-7 years, and they haven't scored more than 2 since 2016. They haven't won since all these stats, and to do 2-2 on the road, to put up a performance that looked organized, that looked hard fought, that looked like they were working for each other, and to basically push Liverpool and to almost win it at the very end there.
Yeah.
Why isn't that happening? Why can't they do that every other game against Southampton, against whoever, right?
Right.
And that was literally all three of them kind of said the same thing. If you didn't watch this game, I would say certainly just watch the second half of it. That's all you need to watch. Not that the first half was bad. It was just, it was cold. There are people playing in the snow, not necessarily, because they wanted to, but it was a tactical first half, and it took one goal to get the spark going, and it sure did.
Right.
And again, what a fun match.
It was a little outside of the conditions they're normally used to playing in, right? Mm-hmm. It's not very often that snow is accumulating on the pitch for them, right? So,
and it was
that first bit was just crazy,
and it was a crazy what the grounds crew did there at Anfield, because they got the pitch clear. There was no snow on the pitch. Yeah, the time lapse was very, very cool.
Super cool how they removed
but it was all pushed to the side. So anytime they did like they're trying to chase the ball from going out of bounds, or there was a challenge that led you out of bounds, you're landing in a snow pile essentially.
Right. It's like you're playing in Norway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was a really good game. I think it was a bit of an off match for the Liverpool side. And I agree with you. Manchester United looked completely different. So now I have a bunch of sympathy for Manchester United insofar as, Chelsea's going through the exact same thing, right? We're just slightly ahead of you in a timeline. And the key will be your next couple of games, right? How are they going to respond after comments like, why aren't we doing this all the time? Mm-hmm. If they come out in their next match and they play, like they've played the previous 3 matches, there's a lot of questions.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
If they come out on the front foot and they're pushing and they're trying, and like you said, they're playing for each other and trying to work out, that's a different story, right?
Yeah, and it's you saw this a few weeks ago. I think it was a game shortly after we recorded our last one of the year, but when they beat Man City on the road, at the Emirates, and 2 late goals to win that 2-1. They clearly get up for the big games, and you even saw that during the Ten Hag days. For the most part, they got up for some of these big games, especially when it came to against Liverpool's and against and Cities. We'll see. The next game is this Sunday against Arsenal in the FA Cup. So if you can't get up for that the same way you did the other one, you're going to get smoke showed.
Yeah.
And I know Arsenal are without a few right now and lost midweek, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But then your games after that, they're at home to Southampton, at home to Brighton. It's these type of games, more so like your Southampton game, where you got to get up for, right? You can't let them come here, bottom of the table, barely scored, off to one of the worst starts ever in the Premier League, and get the first goal or get you into a 3-2 game.
Right.
You got to come in. You have to dominate the game. I get it. You're only in 13th place, so you're not that far from where they're at, but you are a far better team. If you do 2-2 on the road against Liverpool, against Southampton at home, it should be a 3-0
Right.
Get the job done.
You should not concede.
Right. But then it's also that following week against Brighton.
That one could be tricky.
But you're at home. You should win these games.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, it's not so much these games playing against your Liverpools, your Arsenals, and your Man Cities where you want to pick up points there. It's picking up the points with all the other teams that are 8th through 17th, and they haven't done that.
Right.
They need to play with that kind of urgency and that kind of heart and that kind of grit in every game.
So, changing topics slightly while staying on Manchester United. January transfer window's open. There's a lot of rumor and speculation about 2 people moving out of Old Trafford. One is Xerxes, and the second is Rashford.
How do you find with both of those going?
I think
Rashford a little bit less for me because I'm a big fan of his.
If Rashford goes,
I agree,
but I understand why he would have to. A clean start seems like the best thing for him.
Sure,
but man, the stuff that kid has gone through, and all the stuff he did during COVID to help the community, like he sweats Manchester.
He is,
you know,
born and bred through the academy. Right now, talks of going to Italy and AC Milan,
Juventus,
possibly Dortmund. I saw it too. I would love that. Believe me, I would love that. But I think he does need a fresh start, and it would only be on a loan right now because nobody's going to take him on with the wages that he has. Because remember, he only signed a new deal a season and a half ago,
right?
And it's before last season.
Isn't he on like
2020,
300 a week or 300K a week?
Something obnoxious like that.
Yeah.
Xerxes loaning him back out might be the best for him at this point, going back to Italy where he came from. 2 new names emerged this week, which I thought were quite interesting. I don't necessarily know if I agree with, but you would free up a lot of financial fair play because they're essentially homegrown, and that's Alejandro Garnacho and Kobe Manu.
All right.
I'd be okay if Garnacho went to get experience somewhere else. He doesn't seem to be fitting and jiving with what Amarin's doing in terms of, kind of that back 3 that he's playing, as well as just some of the things that he's trying to instill on the team. Manu would be an interesting one. I think you saw what his effect next to Argate, who had a fantastic game against Liverpool, what 2 able-bodied legs in the center of midfield can do.
Yeah.
From their covering of the ground, from their putting in these tackles, from running all over the place.
Squeezing the space. They did an excellent job.
Exactly.
Of really making that midfield small for Liverpool to not be able to play.
Exactly. As much class as your Ericssons and your Casemiros have. And at the top of their game, at the peak of their game, 2 of the best in the world when it came to midfield. They are just legged now.
Yeah.
You know, they're early 30s, mid 30s, and they're just not being able to get around and run around the pitch as much. And in a high-paced league like the Premier League, you got to be able to do that. And you saw what that did. That game probably wouldn't have been the same had those 2 been starting in midfield and not 2 younger, hungrier players when it came to covering a lot of ground and sticking mainly to their positions. Not getting too far on, their splits from each other, and you're keeping the game tight. And to your point, just kind of choke pointing everything. So I don't think he should go. I get it. He would free up much more financial fair play because of that homegrown that he has.
It'll be pure profit
because it's a if you didn't know, in England when you sell a homegrown, it frees up an extra bit of cash and things for you. You get a little bit more for it.
There's no transfer fee. There's
a lot of various things to it. But we'll see what the end of January. We're still January 8th, so a long way to go in this. I think if anything, you just work on loans. It's very rare you get in a big summer signing, or a big January signing, I should say. I don't think we're getting another Bruno Fernandes through the door, and you saw, that's a hell of a January signing, and that was 4 seasons ago or something along those lines. I don't think we're getting that through the door. But if you can free up some not salary cap, because that's not what they have over there, but you free up some of those salary funds and some of the funds that tie into financial fair play, then maybe you can make a little bit of moves and get some fresh legs in there to play more to his style.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Amarin does. Because again, as we've covered previously, he's playing with a lot of other managers' players.
Right. And so is Ten Hag to a degree. He certainly brought in a lot of his own. Right. But he was, the Lindelofs are still there. The Harry Maguires are still there. Yeah. I think Delo was a Ten Hag signing.
I thought it was Ten Hag.
I thought it was
because he started off really great and then just tanked, and then he was your best friend for a bit.
But you had players that have been there for a bit, In terms of Liverpool, they're just sticking around in these games. They're getting the points when they can to continue to kind of hold pace at the top of the league. And the way that their front three is playing, you got goals from 2 out of that for front three. Solid team, solid showing. Probably not what they thought, not what a lot of the fans that were there thought it was going to be a 2-2 draw. But to fight back from 1-0 down, and the biggest game on each of the team's schedules, because it is the biggest rivalry in England that plays is no matter, 3rd, 4th, 15th, whatever you are, it's going to be a tough game.
What do you think of, so similarly, as we're asking, is if this is a turning point for for Manchester United, is it a turning point for Liverpool insofar as, are they kind of coming down off the hot streak?
I don't know if it's a big turning point for them. They're not going to go throughout the entire season and not lose again or those type of things. You wouldn't think so, right? The odds aren't in favor. There's too many games, too much happening. They just lost in the cup game today in the first leg, 1-0 to Tottenham. But in terms of the league, I don't think you're going to see a huge drop off. We're over kind of that halfway point, or right there at the halfway point. So it's when legs start to get tired. You're coming out of a very busy time frame right now, and it doesn't get any easier because you have FA Cup this Saturday and Sunday, and then you have midweek Premier League games, and then you have games again. So, and then you go back into Europe and you do these things. So there's not
still packed.
There's not a break,
right?
And just the longevity of these teams, I think that's where you're going to see them drop a few points here and there, kind of as you did in this on the backside of what was a busy time frame,
right?
And you go up against a team that hasn't won in 3. That is your, our arch rivals, and they don't want to be embarrassed because all they've been hearing all week is they're going to get slaughtered, 7-0.
Right.
So it was never going to be an easy game. And Van Dijk after the game essentially said that, they're disappointed that they didn't get the win, but people don't give that team that we played today a whole lot of credit because they made it hard for us today.
Yeah.
And that's how those games should be. But Liverpool's going to come up against that. Maybe not every week, because you're not going to have that same kind of just go at each other, because we've hated each other for years. But you're going to have people wanting to knock them off that top spot.
Right. Especially teams that have nothing to lose.
Correct. And wanting just to come at them.
And I think an interesting thing will be, I'm actually excited for Liverpool's next fixture because it's against Nottingham Forest. And if we've learned anything...
In the FA Cup or the Premier League?
In Premier League.
Okay.
If we've learned anything, is that the places where Liverpool seem to be slightly overextended in attack, they seem to be vulnerable to classic counters if you can do it. Mm-hmm. And there is not a better team this year in the Premier League on a counter as Nottingham Forest. Mm-hmm. Right. So this should be really interesting to watch if the buildup isn't as patient as Liverpool's coach. Oh God,
Slot.
Thank you, Slot. As patient as he wants them to be. If they get impatient, they're going to get smacked in the counter, which would be interesting to watch.
Yeah, and there was a little bit of shades of that in this game, where there's a little bit of patience-ness. The longer the game went 0-0, you saw Slot getting a little aggravated on the side there and a little bit annoyed.
Yeah,
and I think you saw that throughout the team. And then once that goal went in by United, it kind of, okay, we have to start playing, and they certainly did. But yeah, I agree. They're coming up against a Nottingham team who are up there in third and only tied on points for second place. They can put goals against you. They don't usually give up a whole lot. So yeah, it should be a very interesting game.
The only better defense in the league is Arsenal right now. So I think it's going to be really interesting because, as you were saying, they're slightly in that Manchester United game. That counter in the 97th minute where they could have won it was a lightning quick counter off of a turnover in midfield, right? So tune into that one. Whether you're a supporter of either club or not, it should be really fun for the neutral.
And who would be saying this, just to kind of end this game, who would be saying that Trent Alexander-Arnold is going to see Diego Dalot all in his dreams because Dalot took him to town for most of the game on Sunday.
Yeah.
Would have never thought that happened, but it certainly did. And Trent Alexander did not have himself a good game. Responsible and a hand in both their goals with some bad errant passes out of the back and things. But what a fun match. And if you get a chance, just watch the second half of it.
Right. All right. Well, let's get on to the rest of the Premier League action for match week 20. We'll ask one question and make smart-ass comments like we do in our 2-minute drill. Ferris, you're up.
All right. More misery for Big Ange as Tottenham Hotspurs drop their third game out of 5 as they lose 2-1 to the hot hand of Newcastle, who have won all 5 of their previous 5. Newcastle are up to 5th. Tottenham down to 12th. Who saw this one coming?
So I think it was always in the cards for Newcastle to kind of get themselves better. Just the question of when, because they have had a few of those matches in their kind of down period where we were asking kind of the same questions that we ask of Amarin's Manchester United right now, is like, is this game going to be their turning point? And it was a very kind of inconsistent seesaw, but that was always there for Newcastle. You were just waiting for it to come back. And with how Tottenham has been horribly inconsistent, and Postecoglou with his, we play our style of football and we don't change for the opponents.
If all things were equal, as he said 1,000 times after this match.
I just think like his rhetoric is getting kind of old. He didn't come right out and say those two should have been handball calls. But I don't know. Does he actually know the handball rules in the Premier League?
I get it, because it led to the first goal, and it was shortly after that Tottenham had scored the first. But the reporter kept asking him in every way, well, what do you mean by that? And he goes, if all things were equol, or if all, it was something like that. He just kept saying that same line, blah, 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 the lads played great, blah, 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 blah. I'm so, proud of them. Just a shame that all things weren't equal. And he just kept kind of saying it in that way. And you'll have to listen to the interview where he's kind of like our beer, but not as smooth, where he was like prickly and just peary.
Yeah.
But definitely not as smooth as this Grand Canyon prickly pear wheat ale.
Bournemouth continue their unbeaten streak up the cherries with a single goal from David Brooks as they hand Everton their second loss in a row. Is Dyche in the hot seat? Oh, hell yes.
I think he is. Absolutely. I agree with you, especially with new owners there now. Oh, yeah. He doesn't start scoring goals and start getting points. Oh, absolutely. He's on the hot seat.
Another inconsistent set of performances from Everton, right? I mean, they go to Stamford Bridge and they put on probably their performance of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next couple of matches are just inconsistent.
They tied 1-1 with Man City. I mean,
lethargic and hemorrhaging chances.
Yep. And they only have one goal in their last 5 games. And I'm not even going back even further than that. It could be much further than that. It kind of is. It was December 4th, the last time that they got a win. 4-0 over Wolves. Oof. After they got beat 4-0 by United.
Right. And again, another one, right? Is that a turning point? They just dominated Wolves, who, yes, are at the bottom of the table. But it was a commanding performance from Everton. And you thought, oh, they're going to be on the up.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
Oh.
I think Bournemouth have been good. Bournemouth have been very good so far. This season, they've taken down some big teams. They're up to the 7th in the table, unbeaten in their last 5. They are solid. Now, it took them a while to score in this one, but Everton and a Dyche team has that defense. Jordan Pickford has been playing great, but he's not going to keep them in league unless you can score goals on the other end. That's what's going to keep you up. They need Dwight McNeil back to create something for them. Well, the law offices of Barkley and Bailey for Aston Villa won their case against Leicester City by the decision of 2-1. Is Leicester going to survive the final judgment?
I think so.
I think Leicester in trouble, though.
You think?
I do. Because I don't know if there are 3 worse teams.
They're also the only team in the Premier League to lose all of their last 5. Southampton had a draw. I go back and forth between Wolves, Ipswich, and Leicester City for how Southampton's bottom, right?
Yeah, so they're number 1. I see that.
I go because Wolves are just terribly inconsistent, and though they've had 2 wins and a draw in their last 5, they're far too inconsistent for them to hold that kind of form up. And I think Leicester has the ability to pull it out a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm worried, but I don't think they're history.
I don't know if they're history. I obviously nobody knows if they are. But I don't know. It's will Everton survive again? Ipswich has won 2 in their last 5, and I don't know. Leicester needs to score goals as well, and if you get Jamie Vardy going and you get some goals from him, then you'll stay up. If you don't, where are they coming from? And will it be enough to keep you up? Because right now you're only on 14 points. You have the second worst goal difference by minus 21 in the league. So you got to score some goals to get that going in the other direction.
Well, call me Nostradamus, because I called this one shortly after halftime. In our friend of the pods chat we have, Crystal Palace draws even at 1 apiece at Selhurst Park, and Ferris misses his big parlay by 1 leg as Chelsea and Palace square it up at the end. So, has the winning shine of Chelsea worn off?
Listen, a $70 billion team, and they won't even allow me to win 100 and some bucks. Smucks. I did like a 6-leg parlay going. I had 6 teams to win, and they were one of them. They were the only team that didn't win. And that late goal drew me to tie. $5 to make 130 or something. But, I think it's Chelsea still figuring out who they are.
Yeah, agree.
They got some good wins, they got some points, but now they're figuring out as they continue to chop and change. A very young defense,
also a relatively new defense because we have 3 defensive players all out on injury,
right? With
no one to really help them out in the back,
right? So they're still figuring out a little bit of who they are from game to game, what they are, what they're playing like, who's going to be in there, with the team. There hasn't really been a steady team so much, between cup games and these type of things. You're just chopping and changing because you have a huge squad and you can just continue to do that. But, Palace starting to get a little bit of fight in them now over the past few weeks. So not a surprise here that they drew, but gosh darn it for my parlay.
Yeah. So what I called was that Chelsea went up 1-0 and just became just very lackadaisical. And they were giving up chance after chance after chance, open net tap-ins that Crystal Palace was putting wide or high, or were just saved by the fingertips of our keeper. And I just texted in the chat, we're going to give this to Palace. We're going to let them back in the game. And sure enough, we let them back in. And again, we have the lack of experience from a very young team. Also, everyone forgets Maresca hasn't been around the block from a Premier League manager standpoint, right? So he's relatively new to this. He came off Leicester, a promoted Leicester. He helped Leicester get promoted. So he's still figuring some things out. We've got a bit of a way to go. And I think the biggest homework Maresca has to do is he has to stop designing our attack solely on Cole Palmer, because in this match, every time Cole Palmer got the ball, there were at least 2 Palace players making sure that he did not have a place to put the ball, and they were taking it right off his foot. So that means other people are going to have to stand up. And it also goes to show you that because Chelsea are getting so much stick for the lack of or Maresca is getting a stick for the lack of substitutions, he doesn't have a team that he trusts outside of his basic core of starters.
A few people, yeah.
Right? So there's a lot of work to go. I'm sorry we went over.
2 losses and 2 draws in their last 5, all in a row. And Embuemo double is more than double enough to beat bottom of the table Southampton 5-0. Southampton become the worst club in Premier League history. They're certainly on their way to it. And not good.
Yeah.
And they just switched out their manager not too long ago, right?
Yep.
I got news for you. Wasn't the manager. At least I don't think it's the manager. They have some players here, but it's just they can't string together anything, especially, and this wasn't like, it wasn't, at Brentford where they seem to always win. This was on the road at St. Mary's, and Ivan Juric, I think, is the manager, only his second or third game. So much for that bump, eh?
Yeah, the manager speed bump. But again, they never had a chance against Brentford.
No.
Brentford's a solid team. They've got a good identity.
Well, they play United coming up, so I'm sure Southampton's luck will change.
And, I mean, there's really not much else to say about Southampton, is there?
Yeah.
Manchester City back to winning ways. So I wonder how those 170 million FA charges are coming along.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that, didn't we?
5-1 over West Ham. West Ham sack
Julian Lopetegui.
He gone.
Hey, and it reports today, Graham Potter back in the Premier League and at the helm of old West Ham.
That should be an interesting one to see what they're going to do. Man City seemingly, well, from the rumor standpoint, seemingly active in the January transfer window.
100 and something charges can't scare us away from spending more money.
Right. I think they actually need a lot of help.
They do. Absolutely. They
defenders,
holding midfielder would be nice.
Yeah.
Holland does get back on the score sheet, scored 2 in this one. Sevilla got one, but and they got to try to offload like a Jack Grealish, just taking up space. Hasn't scored a goal in like over a year.
Yeah,
on a lot of
December,
big wages, like just not good. I don't know where you're going to offload him to, but some dead weight that you need to get.
Send
off
him to
books.
Leicester.
Why not?
Leicester need some attacking help. Send him back to Villa. Jamie Vardy is, getting ready to put flames on his walker.
Sure.
I don't know. Anyway, enough.
Send him to Tottenham.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Enough about City. Who cares?
A match of penalties as Fulham and Ipswich play out a 2-2 draw. I forgot this game was on. Woke up on Sunday morning. It was like, oh, crap, this is already 2-0. Man, Ipswich are going to a good win. Nope. 2 penalties, both put away by, Raul Jimenez. And 2-2 is how it ended. 3 different penalties in total given in this one. And the Tractor Boys almost had their 4th win of the season. They came so close, but just couldn't get it done.
I mean, Fulham punching way below their belt in this one, to be honest.
Yeah.
This was kind of one of those games that they were having an off match, and they're lucky that they drew it.
I mean, I think all the pens were pens. I don't discredit that or argue that.
But they just didn't seem themselves.
No, they didn't. And they were both late pens, if I'm not mistaken, or later games. So like a 69th minute and then a 91st minute pen. And that's, to your point, when it was 2-1 and they give up that late stupid challenge to make in the box at that stage when you're about to get a win, and it came back to bite them. Points shared apiece.
Just shows you the lack of experience there. Mm-hmm. No need to make that challenge, but you see it all the time. So Ipswich think they're going down? Yeah, I agree. The Gunners can only manage a 1-1 draw down on the south coast of Brighton Hove Albion. Just yesterday, first leg 2-0 defeat to Newcastle.
They're just tearing up everybody right now.
Does Arsenal have to splash the cash in January to keep pace?
They have to. I'm sure they want to, but will they?
No.
Probably not.
I doubt it.
No Saka. He's out for a few more months. You see the kind of impact that not having him has. They're playing a lot of games. This one, the penalty that brought Brighton back into it, I didn't understand at first, because when I watched it, I was like, "Where's the penalty?" But it's kind of a weird one. Ball kind of ball's in the box, brought in by a Brighton player. I think it was Joao Pedro. Kind of flicks it over, and then goes to kind of head the ball to continue to flick it over, and instead Saliba comes in to head it, but essentially headbutts. I don't want to make it sound that bad or that it was that.
It was totally intentional.
But he tries to.
Sorry, unintentional.
Unintentional, but correct. Because going for the ball, but instead headbutts by accident.
Right.
Joao Pedro, who goes down. The ref standing right there and calls it almost instantly.
Right.
It just happened so bang that you're like, oh, did he just fall over air or something? You have to watch it again from an angle that's behind the goal to realize, oh, yeah, no, that's a foul.
Right.
Guy got hit in the box and it's a foul.
Right.
But kind of weird. And Arsenal just couldn't get things firing, couldn't get things going. And a lot of that was shown also on Tuesday against Newcastle. They need to try to bring somebody in. I think there's some talks that Rashford could go there. I doubt it. I doubt that he or the club want to, have him go anywhere else in the Premier League. But Arsenal's still in second for the time being, but tied on points with Nottingham, both on 40 points apiece. And finally, on Monday night, speaking of Nottingham Forest win their 6th in a row by scoring half of that essentially on Wolves. So the 3-0 win to Forest. As I said, they're sitting in third, tied on points with second place Arsenal. But the real thing is, can Nottingham make the Champions League?
Yeah.
Can they hang on to make top 4, which would probably be top 5 because of the coefficient there in England? But can they make the Champions League, kind of go back to the glory days with Brian Clough and all those back then?
I think
that'd be cool.
I think it's possible. I worry about their depth because if they get a key injury in midfield or a midfield and an attack, they're going to start tumbling points.
Yeah, I think the depth speaks more to the they don't have a great amount of games to play, not like the others because they're not in Europe. But they're starting their FA Cup. They just won their first leg in the League Cup. So if they continue on with those tournaments, you could start to see that depth come in,
right?
And have repercussions in the league when some of these games are coming, Saturday to Wednesday, right. Those type of things here in the next little bit.
And then they're going to have to make the choice.
Yep.
Where do we put the eggs?
Are we trying to go for the cup, or are we trying to, stay in it and stay up there and stay in the top 4?
If they can stay healthy, they're going to be a complete force. If not, it's going to be real tough. And that ends the first half. And we'll go on over to
some Ron's beer news.
So first thing to talk about here in Central Florida, we're having a bit of a sad week, mostly because a local brewery has declared their doors closing. Again, it's pretty sad for us. Broken Strings Brewery, been around for just over 10 years.
Many years now, yeah.
Just talked about or sent a letter on their Facebook page that they are closing their doors. They listed a myriad of reasons why, some of which are things like the renovations to downtown, which have kind of isolated them in their location, the growing cost of doing business as a brewery, the national kind of bubble popping of craft beer and craft beer enthusiasm on the decline. So they have sadly said they're closing their doors, but toward the end of their post, they say, and I quote, "We can't begin to thank everyone enough, but want to give everyone one last chance to have a pint in the tap room before we move out. We will have one last party in the tap room on Saturday, January 18th here in Orlando. Free beer until the kegs are empty. More details and the time for event will be made available soon. And they want to see everybody come out and have one last great celebration for kind of an Orlando staple."
Yeah, certainly a Orlando City soccer staple. Quite big on game days there by the supporter groups and just fans alike. Listen, it's a sad one for me. When I was working for Big Storm, just a few blocks down the street, I got to know that brewery well and everybody there. Met some good friends there. Dustin, Miles, Jamie, Tom, Charles, a lot of people that have been behind bar there. and were just awesome to everybody that came in, supported local teams, concerts, colleges that came in, and were down at at the bowl games. If you ever went to an EDC or a concert and you're walking all the way down, the long walk down church to Camping World Stadium, you usually stop there before or after. So been around for a long time, essentially ever since Orlando City's been there. I remember going to them when the stadium first opened down there.
Yeah.
Gone through a lot over the years. It was something. It was Broken Strings, but it was also, what was the name before it?
Leaky Cauldron.
Leaky Cauldron or Leaky...
Broken Cauldron?
Broken Cauldron, yes.
It was
Broken Cauldron.
Because it was two
Leaky
different
Cauldron
brewery
from Harry Potter. They're not a Harry Potter brewery. But yeah, the Broken Cauldron. I think you're right. And then it switched.
Yeah, because it was two different brewing companies kind of pressed together.
Two different owners and that sort of thing. Yeah. But, we talked about Deadwood several pods back, all kind of in that same downtown area where there's not a whole lot going on unless there's events going on. So you're not in a particular walking distance, family, shopping type, those areas where you're now seeing, maybe some of your favorite breweries in your hometown have other things there, food halls or outdoor entertainment or these type of things. There's not a whole lot of that there.
Yeah, they're basically stranded.
They are, and very well supported by those that frequented the brewery and stopped in for beers. Awesome. Lord knows I've been there several times. I've had plenty of beer shots and chugs and everything like that during the days when I was in the brewery industry. And good crew. Sad for everybody. I know that they all have other gigs and have been doing other things for a bit now, but sad days, and certainly try to get out there on Saturday, January 18th.
Yeah, if you get on to Facebook, look up Broken Strings Brewery, and you can read the statement for themselves. I just gave you a little snippet of it. And if you're in the Orlando area, like we said, get out to 1012 West Church Street on the 18th. Grab a pint. And even if you can't grab a pint because it's already, all the kegs are kicked, just go hang out.
Sure. Absolutely.
Show some love for some folks who really gave it a good go, had some fantastic beers, which we will sadly now no longer have access to.
Yep.
All right. Now to continue the semi-sad news that we have today. Ferris, a global crime has been committed.
I thought you say a global pandemic is upon us again. Like, God, please don't.
A second in history, Great Guinness heist has been perpetrated.
Oh, I saw a little bit of news on this. Oh, do tell.
Thieves stole a truck, or if you're from the UK, a lorry.
A lorry, yes.
Which was carrying 400 kegs.
Oh, man. It's a gold mine.
400 kegs of Guinness stout.
How many pints is that?
That is 35,000 pints. 35,200 pints. And
taken away from the world. Unacceptable.
Yep. In the midst of a holiday shortage.
Oh, even worse.
Europe. Yeah.
Talk about the Grinch.
Right. So in the days leading up to Christmas, stout lovers were left reeling from a nationwide shortage of Guinness, which was so severe that pubs were forced to ration pints as taps began to run dry.
A stake through my heart right now. That sounds terrible.
Supermarkets were at risk of running out due to customers trying to stockpile. It was insane. Now it's revealed that criminals appear to have gone to even greater lengths to beat the Guinness drought with a heist that exacerbated the nationwide shortage. A truck carrying 400 quantity of 50-liter kegs the equivalent to 35,200 pints, disappeared from a depot in the Midlands of the UK in mid-December.
Have they found it?
No.
How does that truck just disappear like that?
I know, right?
Cannot wait for the Netflix documentary on this.
All you true crime podcasters,
get on this.
You get out there
and you
find our Guinness. So this truck, whose contents were destined for pubs, destined for the great Guinness, or for kegs of Guinness during the festival peak, were stolen from a logistics hub near Daventry in Northamptonshire. Sources familiar with the incident confirmed that a subcontractor working for a company in the Diageo supply chain, Diageo is the company who owns Guinness, reported the theft to police. The Guardian, those guys are like the best reporters right now.
Sure.
They went right to the Northamptonshire police for comment and got nothing.
So is there not like a tracker in the truck or, a GPS signal?
Or it's been disabled. No one really knows because the truck just
disappeared,
pulled a Bermuda Triangle and just vanished.
In the middle of England. Gone.
400 kegs.
Jeez. There is one hell of a house party going on somewhere right now.
But think about this. You steal those 400 kegs.
What are you going to do with them?
Exactly.
Where are you going to offload them?
Yeah. Where are you going to go? Because if you're some just
you can't store them somewhere.
You're some Joe Schmo, right? And you start like magically having Guinness.
Be like, hey, Ron, I just stopped by. I wanted to give you a keg of Guinness all of a sudden.
Right.
Like, oh no, I just had them laying around.
I don't know how you're offloading that Guinness, but
I just pull a truck into the backyard and just pull out a keg at a time and just, I don't know either.
Yeah. So the crazy thing is that this is not the first time that this has happened, right? So in 2007, a van drove into the St. James Gate Brewery where Guinness is made in Ireland.
I've been there.
And escaped with 180 kegs of Guinness, 180
liquid
kegs
gold, man.
of Bud, and 90 kegs of Carlsberg, which is the equivalent of 40,000 pints. And that was also...
Those were diversity criminals right there. Right? They went for all styles.
But what's crazy is that was also in the run up to Christmas. So maybe this is the same people because they were never caught in 2007. Yeah. Maybe they're like, hey, let's do it again.
Let's, let's up our game. Out of the 3 beers that we stole, we knew which one was best. So let's just go after the Guinness again.
So I will request that if there are any true crime people,
we need like
who follow
partners,
our podcast,
right? Like we need like true crime podcasting. Brothers and sisters in arms,
right?
That
help
us out. Yes,
this stash of Guinness, but don't do it at the detriment of your safety.
No, but get on the case, please find out.
Yeah.
We have a lot of big questions. Was there a car tracker?
Right.
What time was this stolen?
I mean, every truck.
How do they not find a lorry? Think of about a semi truck in England. Where does it go? Where does it park?
I mean, it's got to be somewhere,
right? What was on the police report? What time did they actually, call it in as it being stolen?
Just crazy,
wild.
I mean, there's GPS in 90% of the trucks in.
Guess what? If you're listening to us right now on your phone, guess what? You're being tracked. We know exactly where you're at. Not like we personally, but
whoa, easy there, big brother.
So somebody does.
All right, help us out, true crime folks. We need it,
please.
And then I'll give you one more story, which is on a happier note.
Oh, good.
Yeah, a much happier note. Ferris, you ever heard of a small kind of independent craft brewery called Dogfish Head?
I sure have.
Okay. So Dogfish Head, they have launched a new beer in their minute IPAs.
Sure.
Right? So 60 minute, 90 minute, 120 minute. The 30-minute IPA, meaty minute, start over.
30-minute Light IPA.
4.0 on the ABV. A hoppy, crisp, and crushable beer with all the body and character of a world-class IPA, but only 95 calories and 3.6 grams of carbs per 12-ounce serving.
That sounds pretty darn good, actually.
Proving that the light, quote, light beer can still have meaningful flavor. The 30-minute light IPA is continually hopped for 30 minutes for a bold yet easy drinking hop-forward beer.
Oh, I want to try this.
Yeah. But wait.
Oh.
It gets better.
We're going 15 minutes.
Right. Have you ever heard of Quitter's Day?
Wasn't that like this? What was it? What's the commercial right now? It's like this, the second Friday in January where everybody.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. So everyone people make New Year's resolutions. And by the second Friday of January,
they're gone. They're gone like the Guinness.
like it was never there. Well, while millions of Americans begin their New Year's resolutions with the best of intentions, as much as 80% of people reportedly abandon their new set of goals by the second Friday in January, a day that's lovingly been dubbed Quitter's Day. Dogfish Head surveyed 1,000 Americans older than 21 to uncover the hidden truths about New Year's resolution abandonment and explore why embracing our imperfections may be even more fulfilling than sticking to a long-time resolution. Right. So there's some fun, crazy stats. More than half of Americans made New Year's resolutions in 2024, but 1 out of 3 saw them through to completion. So 1/3 of everybody actually made it. Of the Americans that made New Year's resolutions in 2024, a quarter purposely set easily achievable goals so they'd be less likely to quit. Those who didn't complete their New Year's resolutions in 2024 cited a lack of motivation and a lack of time as the leading factors. So Dogfish decided now through January 16th, fans can visit www.dogfishhead.com/quitters-day to share their stories of New Year's resolution fails. Folks with the top 300 entries, meaning judges are going to read them and evaluate them, will score $30 in beer money to purchase 30-minute light IPA. So, not to mention, they will also receive a Quitter's Day participation medal because everyone at Dogfish Head is a winner. So everybody wins. Hilarious.
Wow.
So if you quit, you quit your resolution and put that story on Dogfish Head's website.
And you're one of the top 300. You get yourself $30 and 30-minute IPA cash.
That should be pretty fun.
I'll be damned.
And there's your beer news.
Jam-packed.
Yep. So that brings us back to the football. And we are going to send that bad boy over to Ferris for the La Liga's Roundup.
Yeehaw! It's a new year. How about that Christian Pulisic?
Oh, I haven't seen the documentary yet.
I haven't either. I do want to start that. I've heard it's good. But, man, he's been scoring, and a late goal helped his AC Milan team to win a Milan derby against Inter Milan in the Italian Cup Super Final.
Yeah.
The Super Final.
Dun, dun, dun.
On Monday night. Monday. 3-2 the final score. I think he scored the second of that to kind of complete or to tie it up, and then a third goal win to win it. But he has 5 goals and 4 assists in 12 matches in the league so far. This was obviously not a league game, but just pad that up a little bit. And just how good has he been this year for Milan?
Awesome.
There's been Italians calling for him to have the captain's armband. That's
right?
how good he's been. And like we're talking about, there's a documentary right now on Paramount Plus. They're kind of chronicling his past. Are they just doing this season? Maybe.
No, they go back further than it, but the spotlight is for this season.
Gotcha. Okay.
But they allegedly go back and talk about some struggles at Chelsea and places he's been before and the U.S. men's national team.
Gotcha. But If you haven't got a chance, turn on one of his games. You can usually find him on CBS, Paramount Plus, those type of places. But he and the rest of the AC Milan team is quite fun to watch.
Heck yeah. I'm so happy that he's just crushing it because he'll be in great form for the run up and into the 2026 World Cup.
One can only hope. Yeah, we got a long way to go for that. But yeah. In the league, his team's not doing so good, but they are a fun watch. They're currently 8th in the Serie A. Moving on. If you didn't hear this news, this past weekend, Lionel Messi, I believe you heard of him, was awarded by President Biden with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. For this award, it can be awarded by the President of the United States to individuals who have made exceptional contributions to the security or national interest of America, to world peace, or to cultural or other significant public or private endeavors.
Listen, so anything, anywhere, anybody.
It kind of encompasses that, yeah. But like, I don't know. Listen, if Bill Nye, the science guy, I get that.
Yep.
But Messi, the Mick Ultra guy, I don't get.
I really don't. I don't get it. I don't understand.
He's played a little over a year here. He's been hurt for half of it. He's getting paid by 5 different companies. What kind of Medal of Freedom did he? What?
Yeah. What has he done that's been so significant?
Exceptional or whatever. Like he's a world superstar, but has done for the U.S. Except for the past year, I guess. He brings in fans of the game or the MLS or whatnot. But did David Beckham get a Presidential Medal of Freedom?
Or Beckham? Zlatan?
Yeah. That's a great point. Why did Zlatan is the epitome of freedom?
I don't.
Bill Nye gets it, and then some guy named Lionel Messi gets it. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
The dude's literally been on your TV for years showing you what can explode together. And then you have some doofus over here that kicks a ball on the ground. And, that's freedom right there for it. It's a Medal of Freedom.
Yeah.
A bunch of crock.
Look, I don't. This is not to take away what you said could be kind of, downplaying the skills and what it takes to play the game.
No, he's
the superstar.
Phenomenal, yes.
Right?
He's one of the best ever to play the game, if not the best ever. Yes.
But it is the Presidential Medal of Freedom. So,
yeah. Bill Nye taught the U.S. science.
Right.
The man taught everybody science.
I don't get it.
We move on. But speaking of his of that guy, his old team, Barcelona, man, they've been in the news as of late, and their star summer signing, Dani Olmo, is starting the season in the clubhouse. Well, up until today. Yep. I'll give you that here in a little bit. But Barcelona have had multiple failed attempts to register the $50+ million man for the second half of the season as La Liga, the Spanish FA, rule against the Catalanian club for wage cap restrictions. That's been an ongoing battle. They were supposedly having to, when they signed him in the summer, it was only good until December 31st. And then they kept failing to register him by January 1st. And just today, a temporary permission to play by the Spanish government has allowed Dani Olmo. And there's another guy, Paul Victor, but doesn't quite, he's not quite as well known, but they've essentially allowed them to temporarily play. They submitted a 52-page appeal and more than 60 accompanying documents to the highest sports council within the Spanish government. So I guess he's going to be able to play now up until when? Up until how long?
Right.
How long? Who knows? Head over to The Athletic and you can read that article. Again, this is just news out of today, January 8th. But
I have 2 questions.
Go ahead.
One, he's been sitting around. I'm sure he's been training.
Sure.
But he hasn't had meaningful minutes or game
since the end of last
situation.
Season,
since the end of last
sometime
season.
in December, yeah.
Is he going to be any good for the rest of this season?
Oh, I'm sure he will be. Yeah, I don't think that's a question, but I think what you're seeing a lot right now is the questioning of maybe players questioning whether they go to Barcelona or not.
That's my second question.
Yes.
Would you go there? Because it's entirely possible that you'll be put on ice.
Right. And if you're being looked at by Barcelona, odds are you have interest from other clubs that aren't necessarily in these having to pull a lever here and a lever there. And they're pulling things out of their hat. They're trying to sell like club seats for their new stadium that's not even anywhere near being finished after they sold off
the rights,
TV rights, and then a Spotify thing. And it's been a mess just to get within these restrictions to allow their players to play. They went out and bought this player at this, knowing that they're going to have problems to even register him to play. There was problems at the start of the season to even register him to play. So it's if I was a player, and I'm a mere Sunday league half hack who started playing only a few years back, I have no chance of signing. But if I was in the position to sign from Barcelona, I would not at this point. I would go elsewhere, because at least I know I might be on the squad and be able to play from week in to week out.
You have something not actively holding you back from being able to play.
Yeah.
Right. It's up to your own
It's not your
merits.
fault that you're not playing. Yeah. And it's not even, in fairness, it's not the manager's fault, the sporting director, all of that, but it's certainly a club problem and systemic from, the top, where there's challenges of this and players, not being able to play because they can't be
the continued registered result of years of bad financial decisions.
Yes. All right. Moving on, we'll head over stateside. The first U.S. women's national team squad selection of 2024 was announced yesterday by Emma Hayes in U.S. Soccer. The January camp for both the women and the men are usually a chance to get some new faces into camp and see what they're about and work them out. 26 women's squad consists of the following. In goal, you have some names we haven't quite seen before. Mandy McGlynn from the Utah Royals, Claudia Dickey from Seattle Reign, Angelina Anderson from Angel City, has a lot of A's. And then a name that we do know, Casey Murphy from North Carolina Courage. Be interesting, and I hope some of them get chances in some of the upcoming game, and we see what the other's about. We've seen them in the WSL week in and week out, but be interesting to see what some of them can bring to the U.S. team. Defenders, a lot more known names here: Tiara Davison, Crystal Dunn, Naomi Girma, Emily Sams, who was in the Olympic squad and is going to probably get her second or third cap, and our Orlando Pride NWSL champion. Emily Sonnet, Jenna Nicewanger, and then you also have some new names in here. Ryan Williams of North Carolina Courage, Tara McCoyne from Washington Spirit, and Alyssa Olsen from Bay FC. So a good mix here of some vets and some stalwarts that are in defense for the U.S., and then some fresh new names to see. Tara McClain and Ryan Williams both, I watched a bit of them for their respective clubs this year, and they played great back there. Don't quite know Alyssa Olsen so much from Bay FC. She does already have a cap in a previous game, I believe, but I hope she gets out there and we get to see a little bit more of her. In midfield, pretty much names you've seen before, but then also some returning names we haven't seen in a while, and some young names in here. Sam Coffey back in the squad, and she'll be in the squad for years and years and years. Savannah DeMello back in the squad from Louisville. Hal Hirschfeld from Washington Spirit. This will be about her third or fourth cap as well. She had herself a fantastic year. A name we have not seen before, Neely Martin from Gotham. Might get her chance for her first cap. Ashley Sanchez, who we haven't seen in a while, but back in the midfield for the U.S. Allie Sentinor, the number one pick last year in the draft. Utah Royals had herself a fantastic year. I believe was their top scorer, if I'm not mistaken. Might get her third or fourth cap for the U.S. And Jaden Shaw, who we've seen before with San Diego Wave and had a kind of a down year for her for the Wave, but still very speedy and deadly there in midfield. Forwards are about the same. Some names we know, some names we haven't. Some names we haven't seen in a while, but are glad they're back. Like one of my favorites, and Ashley Hatch returns to the squad. Also, Lynn Williams returns to the squad, now with Seattle Reign, by the way. Mm-hmm. There was a trade over the past few weeks between Gotham and Seattle, so Lynn Williams now with Seattle Reign. Morgan Weaver back in on the U.S. team. We have not seen her in quite a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Which, that is awesome. She is one of my favorites as well. Ella Stevens from Gotham without a cap, so hopefully she gets one, but a good player for Gotham. Alyssa Thompson, who we've seen before with Angel City, and Emma Sears from Racing Louisville, who we saw a little bit in one of the last camps. So it's going to be 14 players who travel to U.S., to England, and to Netherlands for the final 2 matches of 2024. But then you have 26 minus 14. You do the math.
That's an easy one. You don't even need to take your shoes off.
I know. Well, I have to take my shoes off and use my hands. What are you talking about there, Ron? No, but 12 other players that are going to make their that may make their debuts in caps, but will be in the camp and should be fun to see. Games coming up for them.
This is all in the run up to the She Believes, right? Starting around February 20. U.S. plays Colombia, Australia, yes, Japan, Brazil.
Yep. But they're playing. They're playing. No, are they playing the She Believes Cup?
No, not now.
Not now.
That's not till February.
No, you're right.
This is just this. This isn't. They're not going to play. This is just a camp.
I thought they were playing some games, though. Am I mistaken? Like, because the men are playing some games. I thought they were as well leading up to the camp. But it might. But you're right. It might just be a camp prior to that tournament. Anyways, when were those dates again?
Sorry, February. The first match for the U.S. Well, match day 1 is February 20th. And then we play Colombia on the 20th. We play Australia on the 23rd, Japan on the 26th, Brazil on April 5th.
So yeah, this is you're correct, Ron. This is the camp that will kind of prepare them for that, and then hopefully we'll see a lot of these players in the squad for that tournament. Moving over to the men, Antone Robinson. Fulham and U.S. left back was named the 2024 U.S. Male Soccer Player of the Year. Well earned. I think that's a great honor. He's had himself a great year. He's having a great year with Fulham, but a great 2024. The reason we name one for the U.S. women because one has not been announced yet for them. But they also, and new head coach Mauricio Pochettino named his first squad of 2024 in a 24-man roster for January camp, where they actually are playing some games because we have one here in Orlando in about 2 weeks' time. But similar to the women, you're seeing some new names in here. We'll start in goal. Zach Steffen returned to the squad and did one of the last camps and call-outs. Patrick Schulte of the Columbus Crew is also in that squad. People we have not seen in the squad yet. Drake Callender of Inter Miami and Matt Freeze of New York City FC both called into camp. So be interesting to see if they get any game time in the couple of games that they have here in January. Defenders, you have some names that we haven't seen in a while, like Shaq Moore, DeJuan Jones, John Tolkien, but you have other names like your Walker Zimmermans, Mile Robinsons, Tim Reams, that we've seen before. You also have in there Jalen Neal of CF Montreal, who only has a few under his belt, and then George Campbell of CF Le Montreal has 0 caps and everything. So up north there, holding a lot of our U.S. center back and defensive coverage. But that is your defenders. Oh, and I also forgot, Max Arfelston. I think I say that? Arfston of the Columbus Crew, who has not had any call-ins. So be interesting to see if any of those who have not gotten call-ups before get any sort of game time. And a little light in the midfield, only got Diego Luna of Real Salt Lake comes back into the squad. Jack McGlynn comes back into the squad of Philadelphia Union. But adding to that, Benjamin Kromashki of Inter Miami and Emeke Eneli of Real Salt Lake. Both on one of them's uncapped, but one of them only has 1 cap. So very light on.
I was surprised that we were going to be that light.
Yeah, and obviously not names like your Weston McKennies and your Weyas and your Usas and that sort of thing. A pretty different midfield. And usually this January camp is to try out a lot of folks. But
especially since Poch is new. Right. I mean, he's really not had very much going on. So
right.
He's still trying to feel out what's available to him.
Right. And I'm sure you might see some defenders kind of hopping into those number 6 roles, those kind of, inverted backs into midfield. And you may see even some of the forwards drop back and play some of that number 10 role. But for forwards, you have Jesus Ferreira's back in the squad. Brian Gutierrez comes into the squad, which is an interesting name. Brian White of Vancouver Whitecaps. We haven't seen a whole lot of him. Some of these other names I'm going to butcher, so I apologize. Matko Mahalovic, maybe. He's unattached with the club, so we're a little interesting there. Indiana Vasali of St. Louis City, uncapped, comes in. Patrick Ayamiang of Charlotte FC comes in. And Caden Clark of CF Montreal comes in as forwards. So again, not your Pulisic's, not your
Pepe's,
your Balagoons, anything like that. So we're going to get a chance here to see a lot of new midfield and new attackers. You'll probably see a lot of the same defense because there was a lot of names there that we've seen before, but interesting squad. And they do have games.
Right.
Like I said, January 22nd here in Orlando against
our favorite, Costa Rica.
Of course. And then what's the other game there?
Saturday, January 18 against Venezuela. And then for CONCACAF Nations League, we play Panama on March 20.
That's right.
Those are the 3 next fixtures for the
But
US
the March 21, you'll see a different squad. I think that's during an international break, so you probably see the normal squad come in. But
right, the Pulisics of the world.
Mm-hmm. But this year, we've seen a lot of new players. And that has been your La Liga's Roundup.
Nice. Full pod.
Yeah.
We had a lot to go over.
It's been a while. We essentially didn't pod all throughout the festive fixtures.
Yeah. We were all just too scattered. I was traveling like crazy, which we'll get to actually here in a minute at the end. But Ferris, got a quote for us?
I don't have one from Zlatan, but I have one from Jose.
All right, hit it.
The secret in everything is love. If you are successful in football, it's because you love football. Keep it lighthearted today.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jose.
Like our beer.
Yes, very good. Good segue. Yeah. Well done. Which is already gone from us. Like we downed that one.
Yeah, that was pretty fast. So I had a lot of travel over the festive period. And basically right after Christmas, I was headed to Japan to help shoot a show for New Year's. And the crazy thing is that I'm in, a very busy American airport. I'm not going to say which one, but I'm in a bar having a beer, watching some sports, kind of minding my own business. And because the travel around the holidays is so stressful, these two kind of couples get into it over who took whose seat. And I thought you were done. And
okay,
we weren't done. My cell phone's still here. And they're like, well, I didn't even see your cell phone. And like, it just devolves right into like the screaming and the name calling. And I'm standing I'm sitting at my table and the server's here trying to get my beer order when this whole thing breaks out. And it turns into a physical bar fight.
Really?
Like there's
in the airport.
Yeah. There's shoving. And then, it's two couples, right? A guy and a girl. And the women, oddly enough, start it first. And then the hair pulling and the nail waving starts. And then the guys are trying to break them up, but then they start pushing and shoving. And it like expands a little bit because the pushing and shoving falls into the crowded other seats. And so those people get upset and they push each other back and like it starts to devolve.
Wow.
And
ain't that something?
The whole thing was absolutely hilarious. These grown people. And so the cops have to come and they kind of settle everything down without pepper spraying or tasing everyone. But I just thought it was funny, the name calling and just the stupid physicality of you took our table. Right. And so I said to kind of as an aside, an offhand comment to the server who was standing there. I was like, why is this bar fight so funny? And without missing a beat, the server said, because it's all punchlines. And it was absolutely brilliant.
Did she really say that?
100%.
Oh, man.
That's what was so funny about it, was that it was just like, this, punny dad joke was the inadvertent result of them
trying
stupid
to throw
bar
bows
fight. And
fists and
oh God, it was absolutely brilliant. So
nothing says happy holidays like a bar fight in an airport.
You got to love it.
What does this world come to?
I know. So
Messi, Golden Freedom of Honor Award, whatever you want.
Another hilarious joke. Beer of the pod came from Grand Canyon Brewing Company, based in Arizona. Prickly Pear Wheat Ale, which was quite tasty.
Darn good. Thank you very much for bringing us back.
Feel free to follow us on all the social medias.
Untapped. We've been adding things to Untapped throughout the holiday season.
It's still our favorite. We have a zillion beers there, and you can check out where we're going and when we travel and all that, because some really weird stuff, especially between Ferris and I think we're the heart of the travel when it comes to posting those. But leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. We greatly appreciate it if you screenshot it and send it to us. We send out magnets and scarves and
koozies and all.
Yes.
Do we even have any more koozies? I don't even know if we have any more koozies.
Yeah, we got about 15 left.
All right, there you go. Boom. Next 15 callers.
Yeah.
Or emails. Instagram. Zapper.
Just zap us a lot.
Yeah, just zap us a lot. With a pot of neck bone.
Heck yeah. All right. Ferris, always a pleasure.
We missed you, Blake.
Love the beer. Cherish the game. The beautiful game.